following video is based upon true crime content. Therefore, it may contain images and/or language that some find disturbing. For this reason, viewer discretion is advised. That music's pretty cool, isn't it? Kind of, I don't know, electric. How are we, everyone? I was playing around with my background stuff while I'm going live. I swear you need two people to do all this. Okay, what's going on? You guys ready to watch this hearing? Because we've got like 3 hours to watch. Okay, I've trimmed it down and it's 3 hours long. But the good news is we're going to go in order in which things happened. So let's get to it. I am going to put this on speed up though. Just a little bit.
All right, we are on the record. In 215000139, State of Utah versus Kouri Richins. Can I have counsel for the state make their appearances?
Good morning, Your Honor. Brad Bloodworth, Lindsay Shervanack, Margaret Olson, Joseph Hill, and Fred Burmester for the state.
Welcome to all of you. For the defense, please.
Wendy Lewis, Catherine Nestor, and Alexander Ramos, and Ms. Richins is present.
Good morning, Ms. Richins. All right, we're here for an evidentiary hearing on 3 motions to suppress. We previously had a discussion on the record regarding initial burdens. I've made notes on the motions that match that discussion. Which motion do you all want to handle first, or is there an agreed order of events?
Your Honor, there's an agreed order that roughly follows chronology. The first is the motion to suppress statements and evidence. The state, for 3 of the 4 issues raised in that motion, bears the burden, so we've agreed that the state will just go first.
Okay.
On that. The second motion is the motion to suppress electronic data. The defense bears the burden on that motion. The defense will go first on that. The third in order is the motion to suppress the letter. Again, the defense bears the burden. They will go first.
Who is the state's first witness?
Your Honor, the state's first witness is Detective Eric Maynard. But before we get there, the state would like to move into evidence what we have previously marked as exhibits 1 through 149. Move into evidence for the purpose of this hearing only.
Is there a stipulation to that effect?
Your Honor, we got these exhibits at like 10:30 last night. I was already asleep. So can we just do that at the end? I mean, whatever he ends up using. I don't expect we're going to object to any of these, but just because I haven't gone through them all, can we just they come?
It would be helpful to me to have a record of what's being offered through which witness so I can understand and have some notes. Any objection?
Your Honor, in a sense, the state is offering them into evidence now, kind of considering both the evidentiary standard for a hearing like this,
Right.
under 1101 referring back to 104. The state does not intend to address most of these exhibits today. Rather, the state is moving them into evidence to use them to reference in our follow-on papers.
I appreciate that. Are you going to be laying any foundation for the ones you don't expressly reference today? For example, there are it appears, numerous either transcripts or notes from telephone calls. Is somebody going to talk about where those came from or when they were secured?
Your Honor, we can. All the phone calls referenced are jail phone calls using HomeWave, the jail phone call system, which, I don't know, we have laid a foundation for several times throughout the course of the proceedings.
Right.
I think kind of the only, to my mind, audio and video recordings that we haven't discussed in other proceedings in some fashion are a video recording by Detective Mader, an audio recording by Detective Woody, and a video recording by Detective O'Driscoll. I will address each of those recordings in my examination of those witnesses.
I appreciate all of that. Guess it's up to the state to proceed how you want, but I'd hate to see you miss a short opportunity to lay some basic foundation for some things that you want to refer to in the briefing, rather than just call a witness who can say, this is how this stuff was gathered.
This judge is so interesting to me. The way that he kind of guides the attorney sometimes, it's kind of like he's like calling him out, going, "Are you really going to do that's all you're going to do? Like, you're not going to do more than that?" I mean, let's face it. You guys know y'all don't come here for the legal advice, okay? But yeah, it's just kind of cool how he does that. But I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I did want to bring up to you guys that this actually happened. I want to say, was it Wednesday or Thursday that they had this hearing, but they would not allow them to live stream it. So they had to put it out after the fact. So it does seem like it's a little cut up in some areas. So I do apologize. We're playing straight from Law and Crime right now. And then the other pieces I have are pieces that I've trimmed out.
You need to provide some foundation for reliability. It doesn't need to meet the formal admissibility threshold that would be required under a formal application of the rules of evidence. But there has to be some foundation for reliability.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I guess some much we can do that. I think mostly we're talking about warrants, self-authenticating documents.
Sure.
I'll bear that in mind.
Okay.
I appreciate that the defense didn't get notice of these exhibits until after I was in bed last night.
Sure.
Also, please bear in mind that the defense's moving papers are somewhat vague and uncertain. And rather than litigate their sufficiency under Rule 12, the state has decided, perhaps at some risk, but the state has decided to just roll with this. And in doing that, it is unclear precisely what evidence we will need to respond to the defense's motions, because at this point, I don't think we're really on proper notice. So we have taken an expansive view with the hope that we have swept up all the evidence we may need. That, of course, will be ultimately determined once we receive more substantive papers from the defense.
We'll see where this goes. The defense certainly is reserving its objections based on regarding the reliability of the state's evidence. And we'll see how it shakes out. Okay. With that, go ahead.
One more here.
Yep.
Not only is there 1 through 149, as we have done in the litigation so far, there are certain documents on the court's docket that we will be referring to throughout today. For example, 214 is the walk the dog letter.
Understood.
And we will refer to in our opposition papers.
Okay. Understood.
Your Honor, subject to the off-the-record discussion this morning, the state calls Detective Eric Maynard.
Okay. I'm going to adjust that a little bit. On the record, but sealed discussion we had this morning. Sam, I need you to stop video recording for a moment. Thank you. There will still be an audio record of Detective Maynard's testimony. Ms. Nesser, you're looking at me. You ready to go? Okay. Let's call Detective Maynard. Zach, will you let Detective Maynard know we can have him in now? Thank you.
We did not, I don't have anything on Detective Maynard. I did not see any. I didn't see anything, unless this is her.
That's okay. Mr. Bloodworth, are we ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready to call the testimony.
Okay. Brittany, are we on the record? All right, let's call the state's next witness, please.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Jamie Woody.
Detective, if you'd step in front of Brittany, we'll get you sworn in.
If you will please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. Have a seat.
Good afternoon, Detective Woody.
Good afternoon.
Are you a K-9 patrol deputy with the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
I am.
Back on April the 13th, 2022, were you a detective with the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
I was.
And at that time, were you the lead detective investigating the death of Eric Richins?
Yes, sir.
And at about 10 o'clock on the morning of April the 13th, 2022, were you preparing to execute a search warrant on the Willow Court address where Ms. Richins then resided and on the defendant's person?
I was.
At about 10 a.m. that morning, where were you physically preparing to execute that warrant?
At the sheriff's office.
And were you planning how you were going to execute the warrant at that time?
We were.
Did there come a time right about 10 o'clock when you received word that Deputy Maynard had stopped the defendant a short distance from her home?
Yes.
What did you do upon receiving that word?
I proceeded over to that location.
To the location of the stop?
Correct.
Once you were at the location of the stop, what did you observe?
I observed Kouri in the vehicle, the detective's vehicle.
And was she in the front passenger seat?
I believe so, yes.
Did you record this interaction with the defendant at all?
I did an audio recording.
Have you recently reviewed that audio recording?
I have.
And is that audio recording a fair and accurate representation, meaning it's not been altered at all?
Correct.
Your Honor, that audio recording is found at Exhibit 5 in the state's binder. A transcript of that audio recording is found at Exhibit 6. At any time during this interaction with the defendant, did you observe her in handcuffs?
No,
Did you place her under arrest?
I did not.
Did you observe her crying? Did you observe any tears?
I did not observe any tears, but she sounded like she was crying.
But no tears?
No.
Do you recall a time when you asked the defendant if she wanted to come with you and grab her cell phone?
I do.
What happened then?
We walked over to her car, and I believe she reached in and grabbed the phone and handed it to me.
When she handed you the phone, or as she was handing you the phone, do you recall a discussion about the phone's case?
I do.
Can you turn, there's an exhibit binder in front of you. You can turn, please, to tab 6 of that exhibit binder. Is that a transcript of the audio recording of your interaction at this?
One quick note, you guys, this is the first detective on the case, like the lead detective, because 1 year later, Detective O'Driscoll becomes the new detective on it. And it's at that point where they do the search warrants and they arrest her. So that's why they're bringing in Detective Woody now. I hope you guys are up to par on this case. I know we keep skipping back and forth between this and the other one, but they're actually going through stuff before she was taken into custody.
Time and date with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Can you turn, please, to page 11, look at line 1, right at the very top, where you say, do you want to come with me and grab your phone real quick?
Okay.
And is that the point where she exited Detective Maynard's truck and walked with you to her car
Correct.
and reached into her car and retrieved your telephone?
Yes, sir.
Do you see down at line 11 where you asked, do you want to take it out of the case or not?
Yeah, I see that.
At the point you asked that, who is holding the phone?
Kouri is.
And why did you ask her if she wanted to take the phone out of the case?
I usually ask that if there's something attached to it, cards, driver's license, something like that, that I don't want to take with me.
Ultimately, she did not remove the phone from the case.
Not that I recall.
And after you asked her, do you want to remove the phone from the case, that is when she handed you the phone?
Yes, sir.
Please turn the page to 12. I want to clarify one thing. On line 9, it talks about an unidentified male speaker. Is that male speaker Detective Maynard?
It is.
At line 10, you say, kind of in a conversation that's unclear, I'm looking to clarify it here. You say, give you that and then I. Is the that in line 10 the cell phone?
Check deleting.
Overruled.
Correct.
If you could please read below to line 13. At this point in time, it appears you're speaking to the defendant. You say, then he'll follow you back and you can do that. Is the hill Detective Maynard in that sentence?
It is.
Is the that provide you with phone numbers out of your cell phone?
Correct.
After your audio recording, where do you go?
I go over to Becky's house.
And Becky was Becky an employee of Eric Richin's company that had some electronic devices that you were interested in recovering?
Yes, sir.
And is Becky's house right in front or right off the street where Detective Maynard stopped the defendant?
It was.
So you wanted to walk straight from the stop kind of to the closest house
Correct.
to retrieve some electronic gear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When your audio recording stops, do you have any other interaction with the defendant at the location of the Detective Maynard's stop?
Not that I recall.
When do you next have any interaction with the defendant?
At the home, at the Willow Court.
The Willow Court address. Okay. What interaction do you have with the defendant at the Willow Court address?
I believe we asked if she would either provide the safe code or open the safe up at the home.
And did she?
She did. She wanted to ask a few questions and ask about the warrant, what we found and stuff.
Okay, set the scene. What are you doing at the home?
I'm walking around trying to help serve the search warrant.
At this point in time, other than asking for a safe code, are you at all questioning the defendant?
No, sir.
You said she was asking you questions. What does this look like? What are you doing and how is she asking you questions?
We're just kind of walking back and forth to the safes, and she's kind of following behind me, asking different questions.
What types of questions?
Questions about the warrant. I think questions about what we were looking for, what we found, things like that.
At this point in time, what was your interest at the house?
Just to serve the warrant.
At this point in time, were you at all wanting to interact with the defendant?
No, sir.
What did you want to do?
I just wanted to serve the warrant and finish it.
They can't remove them from the home when they do that?
No further questions, John.
Ms. Nestor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins. I do have some questions for you today.
Okay.
I want to talk about the search of the home. You were the person that went and asked the judge to issue a warrant, correct?
Correct.
And the way that process works is you fill out an affidavit of a sworn affidavit saying all the facts that you believe support a search of a home. Is that right?
Correct.
And you specifically tell the judge what it is you would like to search, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry. And then you also tell the judge what you're looking for generally, right?
Correct.
To try to keep it narrow, as narrow as you can, right?
Correct.
And in this case, before you all showed up at the house and executed these warrants, at that point you had gotten 2 warrants. Is that right? Signed by judges.
I believe so.
Okay. The first warrant you got maybe 2 days before that authorized a search for fentanyl and any kind of mailing or tracking instruments that would indicate purchasing something, right?
I believe so.
And then the second warrant you got, and again before you executed, was asking to search the home and Ms. Richin's person for electronics such as phones, computers, things like that. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Neither of those warrants did you seek authority to search a vehicle. Is that right?
Not in those 2 that I remember.
As a matter of fact, you went back later while you're in the middle of your search and asked a judge to issue a third warrant authorizing you to search vehicles. Is that right?
That sounds correct.
And do you remember what time you did that?
I do not.
And was that warrant issued?
I believe so, yes.
And did you go ask for that to be issued after you got back to the house, after you had already talked to Kouri with with Detective Maynard?
Yes, it was after we left the stop.
So at the time that you got the phone out of Kouri's vehicle, you did not have a warrant authorizing the search of any vehicle. Is that right?
I didn't get the phone out of the car.
Okay. We'll get to that in a minute.
Oh,
When
okay.
you were at the car with Kouri,
Uh-huh.
you did not have a warrant authorizing you to search a vehicle, correct?
No, ma'am.
And in fact, you knew you needed another warrant because later that day you went back and got another one, right? That authorized vehicles.
Objection, Your Honor. That needed another warrant is unclear as to why she needed another warrant. Occasion that she needed another warrant to search the car is unfounded.
I'm going to allow you to answer the question. I can weigh the testimony as needed. Do you need it or repeat it?
I do.
Okay, so you knew you needed a third warrant to be able to search vehicles and actually went back and got a third warrant, correct?
For the vehicles at the house, yes.
Correct. Okay. All right, I want to talk about when you first arrived, where Ms. Richins was seated in the vehicle. You had an audio recorder on,
Yes, ma'am.
but not video.
I did not.
And the transcript the government has referred to, the state, I'm so sorry, but the state has referred to, is it in front of you?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so can we turn to page, let's see here.
So they're just trying to
All
find
right, can we turn to page
flaws.
7?
They're just trying to find flaws in the investigation, just like any defense attorney would do, right? But I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Are you looking at exhibit? Is this exhibit 1?
6, Your Honor.
6, yes, 6. Sorry, I should have said that. Thank you, Your Honor. Let me back up even further than that, just a minute.
And welcome in those who are coming in late. You're not too late.
Okay, so let's go to page 3, where Kouri's asking you what's going on. And starting at line 7, what do you tell her the purpose of your search is?
To make sure that there's nothing there, there's nothing dangerous, and there's nothing dangerous for her and the kids.
And when you say nothing dangerous, you were talking about what?
Drugs.
Specifically, what kind of drugs?
I don't know if it says in the warrant or not, but in this instance, I was talking about fentanyl.
Fentanyl. So you're telling her that you're checking to make sure there's no dangerous fentanyl in her house that could harm her or her children. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, you guys kind of had a conversation about how if there's just any little bit of fentanyl, it can be super dangerous, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then if you could go to page 5. No, I'm sorry, not page 5. I think it's page 7. Sorry, page 7. Line 16. And you ask her, do you have a phone with you? Is that right?
Correct.
And this is when she's still sitting in the car being
Correct.
detained, right? And then she answers, I have my phone. Yeah. And what do you ask her?
I asked her, is it in your pocket?
And what does she say?
She says, we have phones. We have no, it's in my car.
It's in my car. Okay. So there's really no dispute that at the point she's sitting in that car, it was not on her person, correct?
Correct.
Then if you go forward to page 11 at the very top, you say to her, do you want to come with me and grab your phone real quick? Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Prior to that, did you ever give her Miranda rights?
I did not.
Did you ever tell her that she had an option whether she cooperated with you or not?
I don't believe I did say anything like that.
What were you wearing that day?
I was wearing a blue shirt, like a polo, and a black jacket, and I usually had either gray or khaki pants.
Right. And on that blue shirt, there's an insignia for the Summit County Sheriff's Department. Is that right?
Correct, but it's covered by the jacket.
And the jacket identifies you as law
It
enforcement?
does not.
Does not. Did you tell her? She knows you're law enforcement, right?
She should, yes.
Because you guys had talked before.
We have, yes.
You had asked her to be interviewed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew she had a lawyer
Correct.
because you had talked to her lawyer about arranging an interview with her.
Correct.
And you knew she had a lawyer at the time you were talking to her that day out on the street, right?
Correct.
And did you advise her she had a right to call that lawyer and get advice?
I did not.
All right. And then on the last page, page 12, I'm sorry, you guys walked to the car. Is that right? Together?
Correct.
Where were you standing when you guys walked to the car?
I don't remember.
And when you got to the car, where was the phone?
I don't remember.
It wasn't on her. It was in the car.
Correct.
And you asked her to hand you the phone. Is that right?
Your Honor, again, this is recorded, or I guess it depends where.
The transcript says what it says. What's your question, Ms. Nister?
You asked her to hand you the phone.
I would have to look. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly what I said.
Let's look at page 11. Where you say, do you want to take it out of the case or not? Right?
Correct?
And then you take the phone from her. So you didn't even ask her. You just took it. Because it looks like you're not asking her. You just take it from her.
No, I asked if she wanted the case, and then she handed it towards me.
Okay. And did you tell her before that she didn't have to?
I did not.
And when she handed you her phone, you then told her that Detective Maynard would follow her back to the house. Is that right?
I'd have to look. I may have.
Look at the last page, page 12.
Technically, if she's not in cuffs and being taken in, they don't have to read her Miranda rights yet, but it's still a good thing that they do it. So it's kind of like, wish they had.
Correct. I did say he would follow you back.
And he did follow her back, did he not?
I assume so. I wasn't there at that point. I don't think.
Oh, because you'd gone to Becky's house?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you arrive? Were you in a police car when you got there, or a sheriff's car?
I assume I was in my unmarked vehicle.
So at what point did you give the phone back to Detective Maynard?
Would have been probably when we walked back towards his car, towards where he was standing.
You say probably. Do you remember?
I'd have to look at this to remember exactly when and what I said.
So if it doesn't say here, you don't remember?
Some things I do, yes.
Do you remember when you handed him the phone?
When I walked back to the car.
How long did it take for you to get back to the house?
I am not sure.
When you got back to the house, did you ever take the phone back from Detective Maynard?
At some point, I did.
Did he advise you that he had obtained the passcode from Ms. Richins?
I don't recall.
Do you know what you did with the phone when you got it back?
At some point, I would have taken it back and put it into evidence.
Okay, but you don't remember.
No, ma'am.
That's fair. I know it was a while ago. Just trying to get the difference between what you remember and what you don't. Okay. So at some point you said you had another conversation with Kouri where she helped you go to the safes in the house. Is that right?
Correct.
In fact, did you go out and ask her to come in and open the safes?
I believe I asked if she would provide either the code or open the safes so that we didn't have to damage them.
And when you did that, did you advise her she had a right to refuse?
I did not.
Had she been Mirandized to that point?
She did not.
How
That I
many,
know of.
how many police officers were on the scene or sheriffs were on the scene while you guys were doing that search?
I'm not sure.
Help you with that. Sorry, just 1 minute, Your Honor. Were there more than 10?
I'm not sure.
Were there more than 5?
More than likely.
All right, so you asked her to open up the safes. You mentioned that while you were going from place to place in the house, or before you went in the house, where was she when you asked her to open up the safes?
I believe she was in her car or a car.
And when you asked her to open up the safes, you guys went inside the house and you also went in the garage and the removed garage. There's kind of 2 garages, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You mentioned when Mr. Bloodworth was talking to you that she was asking you questions about what you had found. Is that right?
Correct.
Was she asking you if you had found any dangerous fentanyl that was a danger to her or her sons?
I believe she was asking that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. At what point were you removed from this case?
I left a little while after I got the dog, so I'm not sure what date or anything that would be.
When you first got this case, you're from a small town, is that right?
Correct.
And I'm not going to say it, but you knew the Richins family before all this happened, right?
1 second.
Objection, Your Honor. This is far afield of the scope of pending motion.
Those are
I'm a little confused where we're going.
give me just a little bit of leeway, and I think I'll show you. Just give me a couple more questions.
You got to give it a name, though. Is this a?
It's credibility.
I'll give you a limited leeway here.
So you knew the Richins family before you were investigating this case, is that right?
No, I don't think I knew any of these guys. There's a lot of Richins that live there, but I don't think these guys specifically.
You did not?
Not that I recall dealing with them.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have on that, Your Honor.
What?
See, just a moment. I think I'm almost finished. Oh, after you guys did the search on the house, you heard from the defendant's lawyer, did you not?
I don't recall.
And approach,
Objection,
Your Honor.
Again, anything that happened post-search is irrelevant to the pending motion.
Your Honor, this is because we're going to have a little bit later today a challenge to Detective O'Driscoll's interview of Ms. Richins when she was uncounseled. And this is the individual that got the assertion from the lawyer. And so I'm just laying a foundation for when I do O'Driscoll later.
Proffer the assertion.
I do. I have it.
What is it though? Help me understand.
Oh, that her lawyer asserted Sixth Amendment rights and told them not to speak to her client again.
Will allow them to lay this foundation
Your Honor, we're going to have to put a lot of objections onto the record here.
to. I'm a little bit blind here, so if you can just provide a little context.
So as Ms. Nestor just said, she's making a Sixth Amendment challenge to a later interview. That later interview was conducted on April the 14th, 2022. By April the 14th, 2022, or on April the 14th, 2022, judicial proceedings had not begun. Thus, the Sixth Amendment had not attached. Therefore, any discussion about a Sixth Amendment violation is irrelevant. The Sixth Amendment right to counsel had not yet attached.
Okay. We still have, well, I don't know what Detective O'Driscoll is going to say. This sounds like 2 or 3 questions. Am I right?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to allow some limited latitude here. We'll see if it matters or not later.
Okay, Your Honor.
What I understand Ms. Nestor is going to ask about is a communication or 2 sent to her by Ms. Richin's prior counsel. Correct, Ms. Nestor?
Yes, sir.
And after that, are we done?
Yes.
This seems reasonable, even if ultimately irrelevant.
I am trying to comply with your request that we lay foundations through the appropriate witnesses.
Sure.
So this would have been part of the case file at the time she left and O'Driscoll took over.
I guess what I'm saying is, why don't we just let these 2 questions come in and then we'll see if we need to ever address this again.
Fair, Your Honor. The state would not object to the admission of these emails. The only thing the state would say is there is also metadata that attaches to the emails that, to the extent the metadata becomes relevant, it's in discovery, of course. Then
And if we need to get into that, we
consider
can.
that
Is there any
information.
reason to suspect that the header of the email regarding to, from, and time and date is incorrect?
No, Your Honor,
Okay.
that's not.
All right.
And just an FYI, again, the detective that took over the case is Detective O'Driscoll, which is why they keep referencing him.
I just see him, Ms. Nestor.
Your Honor, this is going to be 152.
Thank you. Oh my,
Thank you.
it's a very small type.
Take just a minute. Detective Woody, Deputy Woody, are you still detective? I want to call you the right title.
Just deputy.
Debbie, will you take a minute to review that and see if those look familiar to you? And I'll give you just a minute and then I'll ask you about them.
Okay, I do have a question though. Did she get demoted to deputy from detective? Isn't that a demotion? Okay, you guys that are in the law enforcement world, help me out here.
Can Mr. Bloodworth borrow that copy for 1 second?
In just a moment, my apologies.
Well, yeah. Gotcha.
Kouri has pretty hair. I hate to say it, but she does. She got thick hair. Y'all were talking about Judge Duro earlier.
Just let me know when you're ready. I don't want to rush you.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking to her. Sorry, not
No,
you.
it's okay. If you would hand this to Mr. Bloodworth for me, that's fine.
All right, let's get to it. Come on, guys.
I've scanned through it.
Okay.
so I can-
Does it ring a bell? Do you vaguely remember it?
Yeah.
Okay. And as I understand it, that is an email and letters that were forwarded to you as the case investigator, informing you that the lawyer did not want Ms. Richins spoken to again outside the presence of counsel. Is that right?
That's what it
Your
looks
Honor,
like.
objection, that mischaracterizes the emails.
The email says what it says. Can we just have some foundation as to whether or not that email ever made its way through this witness to Detective O'Driscoll?
My next question.
Okay, let's just get that out and then we can move on.
When you got this email and these letters, what did you do with them?
A while ago, I don't remember. I probably showed my boss, I would assume.
Who was your boss?
Back then, it would have been probably Detective Davis, maybe?
Davis. And is it your practice that when you get case documents that are related to a case that you take them home or throw them away? What do you do with them?
Generally, they go into a case file.
And did you have a case file on Ms. Richins?
There was a case file, yes.
Physical file
Yes.
that was yours as the chief investigator?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you put those documents in there?
I believe I did, but I can't answer for sure.
And when you left the case, did you provide all of your materials to Detective O'Driscoll?
I did.
That makes sense. She got a dog, so she wanted to.
Really quickly to go, that's all I have on that, Your Honor. And we do offer 152.
152 has been offered.
To go back to the warrant, when you came up on Kouri, when she was in Detective Maynard's car, did you ever serve a copy of the warrant on her so she could see that you had a search warrant?
Not at the car, no.
Did you ever give her a copy of the warrant?
We did, yes.
When?
I'm not sure. I know she had a copy at the house, but I don't know when.
And is there some reason that you quit working on this case other than you're wanting to go train your dog?
No, I didn't have enough time for the dog, pretty much.
I respect that. I think that's all I have, Your Honor. Just a moment.
Just need to get that back from you when you're done, Mr. Bloodworth, to add it to the exhibits. Thank you. Let Ms. Nestor check with co-counsel, and then we'll.
Yeah.
Your Honor, we tender the witness. Thank you.
Mr. Bloodworth, anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. May we release this witness, counsel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're free to go. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, you guys. She wanted to work with a dog.
Mr. Bloodworth.
Unit.
Does this conclude the state's initial case, or do you have more witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state has 2 more witnesses.
Rough estimate of how much time you have with the first of those people?
15 minutes.
Why don't we call that person?
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Honor, the state calls lead crime scene investigator Chelsea Gibson.
Chelsea Gibson, lead crime scene tech. Okay. CSI. Damn it, Huckleberry stole my pen again, y'all. Can't write notes. Let me speed this up. See, this is why I watched the other one before and had it all trimmed.
You may be calling somebody else next, or we may be taking a lunch break. Zag, is Chelsea in the lobby? No, there's miscommunication. That's okay.
Yeah, Your Honor,
That's fine.
when we thought we were
Yeah.
going to break for lunch, we sent her back to her office.
Would you like to take a break now? That'd be better for everybody. We have to take one eventually.
No, I think we do it. I should be here in a minute.
Okay, sounds good. Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lucy, okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He doesn't eat.
He doesn't eat, no. We don't feed him.
I'm just convinced that you're running the show.
She does seem pretty upbeat in this hearing, more so than she had been in the past. Kouri, what do you guys think? So technically, she's got 3 attorneys now assigned by the state. But she has a lot of different charges, so I don't know. Do they all? I'm kind of confused by that. Yeah, what is up with the cat stealing the pen, y'all? Mel says her cat does it too. There's so many items that are missing from my desk. He's starting to chew my microphone fuzzies and everything. I can't have that. I feel like, see, those two, I know those 2 ladies work together, but I guess Mackenzie says she's condescending, but she does have.
Ms. Gibson, if you'll step in front of her, you will get sworn in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Own up for their mistakes. I think
Do you
that.
solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury?
Okay, let's slow this down.
Mr. Bloodworth, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gibson, are you the lead crime scene investigator for Summit County Sheriff's Office?
Yes,
And have you been a crime scene investigator with the office since, at minimum, April the 13th, 2022? As a crime scene investigator for the Sheriff's Office, your duties include phone extractions.
yes, they do.
What computer forensic tool does the Sheriff's Office use for phone?
Celebrate.
What
Right.
training and experience do you have in using Celebrate?
I'm certified in downloading and analyzing the phones.
And approximately how many phones have you downloaded?
50.
Are you familiar with the defendant's phone taken into evidence on April the 13th, 2022?
Yes,
How are you familiar with that phone?
it was booked into evidence.
And were you the crime scene investigator that took it into evidence or runs that evidence room or whatever?
Correct.
Was that phone an white iPhone Model 12 with an IMEI number ending in 2558?
Yes, it was.
Did there come a time when the Celebrate forensic tool that the sheriff's office used had the capability to extract data from an iPhone Model 12 without using a password?
Yes.
At what point in time did the sheriff's office have that ability?
December of 22.
So she refused to give it to him?
Did there come a time when the sheriff's office or a partner law enforcement agency extracted the data from that iPhone Model 12 IMEI 2558 without using a passcode? When did that occur?
September of 24.
And did that extraction occur pursuant to a warrant issued on September the 27th, 2024?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Nestor.
Here we
Thank you, Your
go.
Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins. I do have a couple of questions for you. So do you work in the Regional Computer Forensics Lab?
No.
So you actually work for Summit County Sheriff.
Correct.
And I heard Mr. Bloodworth ask you, are you the one who took this phone into evidence? Can you expound on that for me? What was your connection? What did you do with this phone?
So when phones are brought to the sheriff's office, I manage the evidence room.
Keep going. I'm sorry. I just need to grab a document.
You're good.
Keep going.
From what I recall, Detective Woody at the time booked it into evidence, placed it into a locker, and then once it's in the locker, then I take custody of it and put it into evidence storage.
And every time you touch a piece of evidence, you guys keep a log. It's called a chain of custody form. Is that right?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I wish they could make this so much easier than having to go through all these, but I guess they have to do what they have to do.
And we would mark this number 150.
All right. What is it?
It's a chain of custody form here.
Okay, give us one moment.
Deputy Vincent, I'm handing you a document that's marked as a chain of custody form, I guess.
Yes.
Can you look at that and tell me if it looks familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
Is that your handwriting on it?
Yes, it is.
And can you explain what this document is?
It is releasing the phone from me to Detective Crowley to RCFL, back and forth all the way to the RCFL to get the download from the phone, and then chain of custody of that phone coming back to the evidence room.
Let's look at the dates on this. I think you testified earlier that the soonest you were able to download off of phones, the soonest the sheriffs had the software capability to basically crack a phone and download it without a passcode was December of 2022. Is that what you testified?
Correct.
Okay. And the document that you have in front of you, what is the date that you turned over the phone to the RCFL?
5/4 of 22.
May of 22.
Correct.
All right. And at the bottom, there's a comment. What did you write on the comment?
RCFL for phone dumps.
So tell me what that means.
It means it was released to RCFL to obtain a phone download.
And RCFL, just to clarify for the record, it's the Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory that often does do phone dumps, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you gave it to them in May of 22. When did they return it to you? Or when did it get returned? I guess, who's Crowley? Do you know who Crowley is?
Detective Crowley. He was a detective for Summit County Sheriff's Office at the time.
Okay. So when did the RCFL send the phone back? In other words, we're done with it. Here it is. It's back to you.
July of 22.
Again, before you had the capability to crack it without a passcode, right?
Yes.
And when you got the passcode, were you advised, when you got the phone, were you advised they had a passcode for it?
When I received the phone, I believe there was a passcode on the property tag of the device.
Right. So you provided that to RCFL, right?
It was provided, yes.
Okay. Were you on the scene of the search of this home on April the 13th of 2022?
Yes, it was.
Did you ever have the phone in your hands that day?
No, I do not believe so.
Were you aware of anyone looking in the phone that day when you all were at the house, at the Richins home?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you prepare the property seizure form from the search that day, or was that not your job?
I'd have to look at the handwriting to verify if it was me or my coworker at the time.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yep.
So they They searched that home more than once because they went back on May 8th and did another or the May 3rd maybe, and did another search.
This will be exhibit 154.
That's
Thank you.
Driscoll right there with the beard.
It doesn't look like that's your handwriting
No.
from what I just looked at. Did you prepare that form?
I did not.
Did you ever see it that day?
Yes.
All right. Can you look through that form? As part of your duties on the scene that day was to kind of make sure that all the evidence that was being gathered was properly accounted for?
Yes.
That was part of your responsibility.
Correct.
Can you look on that form and tell me if you see anywhere that a phone was seized from the home?
There's not on this one.
Let's hand you another document.
He sounds. Mackenzie said the judge has the voice of God. That does make sense. He would be God, and like, if what's his name, Morgan? What's his name? If he ever passes away, the judge could
course.
take over and his voiceovers. Morgan Freeman.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand you another form. It's titled Evidence from Search. See the form that says Evidence from Search?
Yes.
It looks like an Excel spreadsheet, something like an Excel.
Yes.
Did you prepare that?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Okay. On that document, the very last entry refers to an iPhone.
Yes.
All the other documents, or most of them, not documents, things that were seized, appear to be linked on your spreadsheet to where they were found. Is that right?
Correct.
Where does it indicate the phone was found?
I did not have a location of the phone on this document.
So is there any other thing on that document that you don't know where it was found other than the phone? Or is that the only item?
It looks like there's an item that's titled pills and one titled scene photos.
Okay. The pills one, does it say how many pills were seized?
Not on the spreadsheet, no.
They were prescription.
I think that's all I have, Your Honor.
Weren't they the prescription pills we're talking about? Okay, so that's not good.
Can we? Yeah. Can the witness keep that on the start?
Yeah, I just want to show this to Alex for 1 second, make
Sure.
sure there's not one more question.
He's annoyed by her. Sure, take your time.
Your Honor, we tender the witness. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Let's take this one. This one.
Okay, he's going to ask her a few more questions, and then we're done with this one. You don't like the male attorney? This one or the prosecutor? You're talking about this one or the prosecutor? Bob Kitten. I think the one sitting down is kind of
Let's please
cute.
pick up where the defense counsel left off. 155, I think it's on there. That's the spreadsheet that you said you prepared. Why did you prepare that spreadsheet?
There's a lot of items regarding this case, and there's also several different case numbers regarding the sheet, so it made it a little bit simpler to combine the several cases onto a spreadsheet at that time.
Was it simply a tool for you to use?
Correct.
Please return to Exhibit 154, the property seizure form. You testified that there is no cell phone identified on that property seizure form. Why is that?
And sorry, there is one on here.
There is one on there.
Yes.
But is this the property seizure form for the Willow Court address, right?
Yes.
And it's not the property seizure form for any property that was seized off of the Willow Court address, is that right?
Sorry, repeat the question.
It's not a form that documents property that was seized off of the Willow Court address, is that correct?
Correct.
So if a phone was seized off of the Willow Court address, you would not expect to see it on that property sheet.
Correct.
Let's return, please, to the discussion regarding the RCFL. You recall looking at the chain of custody form, which transferred custody of the phone from the sheriff's office to the RCFL and back to the sheriff's office, right?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not the RCFL extracted that phone?
Yes, they did.
Did there come a time when the RCFL transferred, I don't know, tell me if it's on a hard drive or however they transfer extractions back to you, the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
Yes. On a hard drive.
Okay, so there came a time when the RCFL transferred the extraction to the Summit County Sheriff's Office, and the Summit County Sheriff's Office has a copy on a hard drive of that extraction.
Correct.
Were you able to access, was the Summit County Sheriff's Office, as far as you know, able to access that extraction?
Not for a while.
And why not for a while?
We did not have the capabilities at the time to look at the download.
Do you know if the Summit County Sheriff's Office ever reviewed that extraction?
Sometime after December of 22,
If at all?
if at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor, can I follow up on that? That was just newly brought in, just very briefly about the extraction.
Yes.
So I want to make sure I understand. So we looked at the fact that you sent the phone to the RCFL in May of 22, right?
Correct.
And they sent it back to y'all saying we're done with it in July of 2022.
Yes.
And then they sent you what they got off of it on a hard drive.
Yes.
And it just took you a while at the sheriff's department to have the software to open their hard drive, right?
Yes.
And have you ever seen, let me back that up. You never went back and got a second hard drive from the RCFL. You just ultimately were able to open the one that they gave you back in July of 22.
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. May we release this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
You're free to go. Thank you.
All right. Take this one down. Now, next, they're going to be talking to, I believe this is the guards. Let me make sure this is who that is. Yeah, okay. So this next one is in regards to the guards. So what I thought we would do is I'm going to bring up this walk the dog letter because I don't know if we've ever read it on my channel. So I'm going to read it now. I don't know if I've ever read it, to be honest with you. Let me share screen. So apparently this is a coded letter that she had in her cell that she had written to her mom or her brother to kind of let them know what to say, what not to say. So here's what she says. Walk the dog, but take vague notes so you remember. Star. Sky is saying even if the gummies have fentanyl in them, the prosecutor will say I tried to put fentanyl in the gummies. So Eric would have them. Stupid, I know, but that's what she said. That's what she's thinking. We will still test them, though. However, she wants to link Eric getting drugs and something from Mexico and pills from Mexico. So we need to do some kind of connection. Her private investigator is doing some research on the ranch cartel place Eric would stay at. Here's what I'm thinking, but this isn't in code at all. You have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short, not a lot to it. He will need to tell Sky at the meeting next week. Upon information and belief, just like they say. A year prior to Eric's death, Ronnie was over watching football one Sunday, and Eric and Ronnie were chatting about Eric's Mexico trip. Eric told Ronnie he gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico, from the workers at the ranch. Not to tell me because I would get mad, because I always said he just gets high every night and won't help take care of the kids. There are pictures on my phone of Eric passed out on the floor or in the chair. Ronnie should have texted from Eric's talking about getting high as well. Eric told Ronnie he keeps them in the allergy pill bottle in his work truck so I wouldn't find them. Ronnie never told me about the conversation. Eric finally told me and asked if Carmen could get him some. Now, Carmen's the girl that got her the drugs, the fentanyl that unalived Eric. Eric never wanted anyone to know he had an issue, especially get caught. He always wanted to what is that word? He always wanted Kouri to go down for him. When they traveled, Eric would put his drugs in Kouri's bag at the why is she talking about herself in third person? At the lines right before they boarded. That way, if they were caught, Kouri got in trouble, not him. Once they got to wherever they were going, Eric would pull drugs out of her bag and it would cause a huge fight. She was pissed. He would risk her going to jail for his drug use. He just would laugh about it. Eric couldn't ruin his image that he had drug issues, and so he would do whatever he had to do. Kouri has never done any type of pills, didn't like them. Rarely would she consume THC, only if Eric begged her. because it was a special occasion. Okay, and this is where she puts the asterisk. Reword this, however, he needs to move the point, just include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and drugs. Ronnie will have the messages to prove Eric confided in him about getting high. He can be short and to the point, but has to be done. Upon information and belief, they never found pain pills or fentanyl in my house because he had it in allergy bottle in work truck. And Cody had emptied out the work truck within a week, so they were never found. When you talk to Ronnie about this, meet up with him in person. I worry sometimes your house and phone are bugged. Maybe drive down to SL and meet him. That might be South Carolina, I don't know. After work without Bree, Sky has to make the connection between Eric and Mexico. Sky is her attorney, by the way, you guys, at the time was her attorney. Between Eric and Mexico because that makes the most sense in her mind. If it's Ronnie's information and belief about the conversation over football, she can use that as a connection. Tell Ronnie don't overanalyze it. It was just a quick 2-minute conversation. Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home, and then we will get those damn bitches! Exclamation mark. Also, please text Lotto or call. Tell him to not text me anything about us doing things together ever. Like church, skiing, trips, nothing that put us together. It doesn't look good. So is that her boyfriend she's talking about there? We're so close to the end. Let's push through. Have the conversation with Ronnie before he meets with Sky. Then tell him to tell Sky at the meeting about the conversation. Hang in there. We're almost there. Love you to the moon. Heart. Take vague notes of all this so you remember before you walk the dog. Okay, then page 4 is I saw a commercial yesterday. Utah Mortgage Relief. Google them, please. For people behind on their mortgage, can you see if they can help on all of the on Marissa's house, please? We have to get our and yours and Chelsea's taken care of ASAP. Try to get to that place in Camas. In Camas. Camas is where they live, right? That's the name of the place they live. What ask sorry y'all. Lotto to do a loan solely in his name. Ask Lotto to do a loan solely in his name. Is that her brother? And not have you on there. I know he can do a home equity line of credit on his house in Hideout. Not sure if he would, but I know he has like $1 million in equity. Maybe he just doesn't know about it. A HELOC, a home equity, if he wants to help me. Taking care of the loans is most important. I don't give a shit about the yodels. What's the yodels? What's the yodels? Remember I told you one way to get at Katie is going through my phone and finding a picture of her girls, even with the boys. Print copies and send them out anonymously to different media companies. Obviously, don't email the pictures so it's not traceable. She would be livid if it got out to the public. You would just have to do it sneakily and be careful. She would try and trace it back to you. If not, no worries. Page 5. Sky is having the girls do the first interview with Good Morning America. Please tell Chelsea to bring up that he hasn't been to church in like 13 years. She has known him. And Eric would brag to her about how much he drank and did pills in high school. Tell Kelsey to say Eric always wanted Kouri to go down for him. For example, he would put drugs in her suitcase when he was together. So if anyone got caught, it was Kouri. He put it in her bag before they left the house, so Kouri didn't know. Then when we would land wherever, Eric would take them out of her bag and Kouri would get pissed and they would just argue about it. Why is she repeating herself? I'll kill and would just laugh about it and say, well, I can't get in trouble, as if it was okay that I got in trouble. Have Selma talk about it. Eric in Spain not being able to drink, so he was looking for drugs the entire time, and explain the drink the waitress gave him and how I called his doctor and went to the pharmacy immediately. Have Allie talk about how the sisters have always been jealous of me because anything they could do, Kouri could do better. Oh my gosh. Being a mom, college, stay-at-home wife until she built $1 million company, a nice car. She didn't have no $1 million company. A nice car, everything she had, they worked. they wanted. Okay, everything she had, they wanted. This comes down to jealousy, money, and Eric's partying that they don't want to acknowledge, and sadly, an accidental overdose. Lastly, don't forget to work on the gun receipts. We want to file charges and let the prosecutor not do anything about it to use it in a defense. Hang on. I'll turn this off. Will you buy a box of Crest white strips, open them up, put them in an envelope, and have Sky give them to me? You can tell her what's in the envelope. I'm sure she won't care. And make sure they can't be found in my cell. My teeth are yellow from so much coffee and tea all day. I love you. I love you. I love you. Hang in there. We're getting there slowly. You're the best man in the world, or you're the best mom in the whole world. I'm so lucky to have you. So that was your mom. Okay. So that's the walk the dog letter, you guys. Oh my gosh. I was thinking, please don't let me be on mute while I'm reading all this. All right. Let's get to this other piece. Sorry, that was the first time I'd read that letter, so I apologize. It was so slow.
All right, Ms. Nestor.
Your Honor, we believe there's sufficient evidence on the record for us to brief at this time. We're not going to call any more witnesses on my motion. The only two left are Mr. Ramos and then Ms. Lewis's.
Ms. Lewis, tell me, your motion is
The 6-page document,
to suppress the letter?
yes.
And who do we need to call, if anyone, on
We
that?
have the 2 officers who did the search of the jail cell.
Okay, are they present?
Are they present, Mr. Bloodworth?
Your Honor, they are both working in the back. I need about 2 minutes on each, but I need a break anyway.
That's no problem. Let's take we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll see how far we get with that, okay?
Got it.
Thanks, folks. Thank you. Court will be in recess for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Involved at that time in a search that took place of the pod and the cell of Ms. Kouri Richins.
Yes.
All right. So could you tell me what initially led to the search at that time?
Do you have a specific search?
Yes, let's start with, I believe there was a search of Ms. Richins' cell on September 13th of 2023.
Okay. So Ms. Richins had a medical episode, and so there was a brief search initially after medical had treated her. And that was a quick search to look for any obvious contraband left over from EMS personnel.
Really quick, Mel made the comment that Kouri messed up when she let Sky go. I don't think she had a choice. I think what happened was they took the sister, did that whole thing, and they took control of his money through that trust. So she could no longer use Eric's money to pay for her defense. So she had to get, these are all court-appointed attorneys that she's having to use now. That's my understanding.
And then shortly after that, there was indication that there was possibly something held up on a video chat.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about that, but let me just take it one step at a time. So initially, she was taken out of the jail for a medical situation.
Yep.
And there was a search on September 13th, and all you were looking for was if anything was left behind by the EMTs, is that correct?
Initially, yes.
Okay. And then when was it you became aware of a video call that led you to want to search the cell further?
So it was while she was away from the jail that was brought to my attention that there was possibly something held up in a video chat. So we searched the cell looking for a piece of paper with cursive handwriting on it.
And that search took place on September 14th, is that correct?
13th, I believe, is my dates.
So, all right, so the first search on September 13th, you
Correct.
didn't seize anything from her cell at that time, is that correct?
No.
And you believe the second search was September 13th?
So there was an initial search of just immediately nothing to do with any case. It was just a contraband search of any medical items left over in that immediate area. And then while she was away, there was a indication that there was possible issues with a video conversation where she held up a piece of paper.
And on that occasion, did you search just her cell or did you search the entire pod?
It was just her cell on that one.
All right, and that was also September 13th.
Yes.
And nothing was collected on that search
Nope.
either, correct?
Nope.
So what led to the search on September 14th of the pod and Ms. Richin's cell?
So there was random cell searches of two different sections, Golf Pod and Bravo Pod. And then also with her medical condition, she was going to be moved to a different cell for observation.
All right. So before we start, can you tell me, is that you in the video there?
Yes.
And which of those cells belongs to Ms. Richins?
I believe at this time Ms. Richins was in 4, which is upstairs.
In fact, it's the top right cell, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
That one that is being pointed to on the
Yep.
screen. Does the video camera run all the time or just?
The main section cell, yes.
All right. And that video camera, as we're going to see in these videos, it freezes a lot. Is that correct?
I believe it is emotion-based.
You believe it's emotion-based?
Yes.
So if it's not,
If there's no movement, I don't believe it records until it senses movement.
there you've just entered Ms. Richin's cell, is that correct?
That appears to be me, yes.
And she doesn't share that cell with anyone, or she didn't, correct? She was there alone. So what is it you're doing here?
I would be looking, if this was on the 14th, this would be doing a search and then also moving her, gathering up her belongings and moving it down to cell 5.
Oh, that's, okay, because she was moving to cell 5.
Correct.
All right. Now, this was after you had already searched for handwritten notes the day before.
Yes, the cursive letter.
Okay. All right, Alex, it's okay. You can, let's go on to the next video, which is State's Exhibit 70. That's number 9. I'm just going in order. Can you zoom in a bit, Alex, on the cell so we can maybe see better what's... It's a little bit difficult, but okay, there we go. So what is it that you are, all right, there in your hand? It looks like you have an envelope.
Correct.
And is that an envelope that you had looked at the day prior?
I observed it, yes.
But you didn't look in it
Nope,
that
I'm
day?
not looking at it, nope.
Now, is this the envelope that on the front has Ms. Richin's prior attorney's name?
I believe that would be the one.
Okay. And it says attorney privileged or something to that
I don't recall it
effect.
saying that. I just recall it saying Sky Lazaro, who I knew was her attorney at the time.
All right. And if a report indicated it said attorney privilege, do you have any reason to disagree with that?
I didn't see that, so
You don't recall?
I don't recall seeing that on there. But
Okay. So on this search, you opened that envelope, correct?
yes.
And go ahead, Alex, you can just play it out well. And what was it you found in that envelope?
In inspecting that envelope, there was numerous paperwork. There was obvious court heading, court minutes. There was some, what appeared to be like some cards that were made from children. I didn't observe any obvious other contraband.
There were handwritten notes in that envelope,
Yes.
correct? Quite a few, isn't it?
Yeah.
Accurate, there were a lot of handwritten notes. And you looked through those notes that day?
Yes.
Who are coming towards the cell at this point?
That is Deputy Watts, and that is Sergeant Thomas in the bottom, and then the one in the white shirt is our nurse.
All right. Now, were you still going through the papers in the envelope at that time?
Yes.
Can you give us a rough idea of how many pages were in that envelope?
Hundreds.
I just have to say one thing. If I was in jail, I think the last thing I'd be worried about is crest white strips. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean?
It was, yeah.
What did you do with the papers that were in that envelope after this search?
After the search, they were put back in as best as I could, back into the manila folder.
And given back to Ms. Richins?
It was left in her property and then put back in her cell when I moved her to 5.
And is it your testimony that none of the papers in that envelope were seized?
To my knowledge,
right, I think a lot of this is frozen. Let it run and it'll start to move. Now, is that Sergeant Thomas standing outside the door?
Yes.
What are you doing during this time? Do you recall?
I recall I'm still searching the folder.
All right. At some point during this search, there is a document found that is a 6-page document that is, I believe, at docket number 214, which says walk the dog on the top. Are you familiar with that document?
Yes,
Are you the one that found that document?
I am not.
Okay. Did you view the document that day?
I cannot specifically recall. I remember Sergeant Thomas, when he indicated he had found it, that was a brief, maybe a brief look at it,
All right.
but did not get a good description of it at that time.
You read that document at another time?
Not specifically like full on, but got more of a briefing from it.
So the documents were in the envelope that you were going through. Are you aware if some of those documents have since been found to be privileged documents?
Are you asking me, were they in that envelope that I
Well,
was
no, right,
searching?
I'm asking you if the documents that you were reading that were in the envelope contained privileged documents.
Yes, I wasn't reading them though.
Well, you were going through, you said hundreds of documents.
Yeah,
So you would have had to have at least read some to get an idea of what they were, correct?
inspecting, looking at, the heading on it, like, court paperwork to me is pretty obvious, like headings.
Well, there were a lot of handwritten documents in that envelope, correct?
Correct.
And you determined not to seize any of those documents, correct? Mm-hmm. And you, as you were reading those documents, you determined that some of them were privileged and you should stop reading them, correct?
I didn't read them,
Then how did you know what they were?
just glancing at them.
So right now you can see it appears this is frozen, correct?
It appears so. I see the timer moving in the corner, but no movement.
All right. So sometimes it detects, now it starts. So sometimes it detects movement in the cell and other times it doesn't. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, it responds on movement, so I don't know why it would be not moving or not recording.
Is that you on the left side of the bunk? I can't tell. Or are you on the
No, I'm on the right, on the foot of the bed.
foot of the bed? So what is it that you are searching at this time?
I believe I'm still looking at the items in the manila envelope.
So it's still the same envelope that had her former attorney's name on it, Ms. Richin's former attorney's name on the front?
Correct.
Now, what I would like you to take a look at here, this video, it's frozen for some time, but then, all right, the envelope that's in your hand right there, that's the envelope we've been talking about. Is that right?
Correct.
And Sergeant Thomas is looking at some other papers, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Do you know what he's looking at
I
this
do
time?
not.
All right. So when Sergeant Thomas found the 6-page document that says walk the dog on top, did he tell you about it right when he found it?
He made indication that he thought he had found something.
And did he make indication as to where he had found it?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I think he said it could have been in a book. I'd have to review my report.
Now, I think when this eventually unfreezes, it's going to show you carrying a bin down the stairs. Do you get occasion to look at these videos very often?
Say again?
Do you get occasion to look at videos from that camera very frequently?
Yes, I have the capability to review video.
Is it always these large gaps where nobody's moving?
If there's nobody moving, it won't record.
Well, are there always gaps where, I mean, you are moving in the cell and it comes on and off? Is that how it always is, or is this unusual?
I haven't come across a situation like this.
So this is the first time you've seen big frozen gaps?
With
where-
the timer moving and no movement, yes.
So you're now walking downstairs with a bin?
Yes.
Now, did you put everything in that bin yourself, or was that stuff that was already in a bin in her cell?
I gathered her items up, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was items in there, but all her items in her cell, I did gather.
So you put those all into the bin?
It may not have been all of them, but I put some in them. There may have been items in them. in it already, but there was stuff added to it for sure, yes.
Are you aware of a book she had in her cell that was an LSAT study prep book?
Not at that time.
You weren't aware of it at that time?
Correct.
So you aren't aware if that is something you put in that bin?
No, I wasn't aware of what.
All right. What was your involvement after this in the rest of this search, after you searched the envelope?
To gather her items up and move it to the cell that you saw me move the box to.
All right. Did you personally seize anything from the cell during that search that was?
I did not know.
Your Honor, I don't have anything further from Sergeant Barrett.
Mr. Bloodworth?
Sergeant Barrett, you're familiar with what I mean when I say the walk the dog letter, right?
Yes.
Docket 214, but every law nerd on the internet calls it the walk the dog letter. When you searched manila envelope marked with Ms. Lazzaro's name, did you recover, seize the walk the dog letter?
I did not.
In the videos that Ms. Nestor just showed you, when you're standing at the foot of the bed, are you going through the hundreds of pages in that manila envelope at that time?
I was, yes.
Let's talk about the size of the bed real quick. Is it a normal, say, 6.5-foot-ish bed?
Correct. Metal bunk, yes.
So when you're at the foot of the bed and you see Sergeant Thomas in the video at the head of the bed, he's about 6 feet plus away from you. Is that correct?
I would say that's accurate, yes.
Okay, let's just get straight to the point here. I've already watched this, and I'm going to tell you guys is what they're trying to say is, look, was that letter that we just read, that I just read to you guys, was it in a manila envelope or some type of envelope that had Sky written on the top of it? Sky is her attorney. Now, unless it said something about confidential legal documents or something like that, the guards aren't supposed to know her attorney's first name. But what the defense is trying to do here is get this letter thrown out. Obviously, it looks bad. It looks really bad. I am curious though. Are they going to bring up any proof that Eric was using any type of non-prescribed drugs? Just thinking about it, just wondering. And because she seems so dead set on that. And that's not to say he didn't do something here or there every now and then or something. But I don't know. It's like she's making him seem like a total drug addict. And his family is like, no, he was not. But at the same time, he could have been doing stuff his family didn't know about. I don't know. I felt like I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. We're going to get to this next prison guard. He's going to explain how he found the letter, because basically that's what this all boils down to. So just hang on. Because this is the prison guard that actually found the letter.
Letter up during a video visit, and so we were attempting to locate that letter.
Okay, so again, I don't know if we have the dates confused now. You were involved in either search on the 13th.
Negative.
Are you aware of the searches on the 13th?
Vaguely. I don't know the details of it.
All right. So is your recollection that the second search on September 13th was looking for the letter that was held up to the video?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware?
I'm aware of I didn't see the incident, but I'm aware that she had held a paper up during a video visit.
And you're aware, or are you aware, that there was a search on the 13th to try and locate that paper?
I believe, yes.
And it wasn't located, correct?
Yes.
And just that paper turned out to be something that was not related to this case or even contraband, correct?
I wouldn't know.
You don't know?
I didn't see the letter. The letter was never found, so I don't know.
Okay. So the letter was not seized from the cell?
No. As far as I know, the letter that she held up was not seized.
All right. So now September 14th, the search on September 14th, that was of the entire pod, correct?
Yes. Or the one that I was involved in, yes, the whole pod was
The whole
searched.
pod. So the purpose of that search was not just to search Ms. Richin's cell?
Negative. to search the whole unit.
Okay. And were you looking for anything specific in that search?
The main goal was to find that letter that she held up
That had not been found the day before?
that had not
All
been
right.
found.
Okay.
So she holds up a letter when she's in the, like she's on like a video call or something with somebody and they notice it. So that's why they wanted to go in and see if they could find what she was holding up, because they wanted to make sure she wasn't doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. And that's what they were looking for. And then they come across this other letter, the walk the dog letter.
Now, before we get started, let me just ask you, on these videos, are you the one that collected these videos for evidence?
Yes.
And tell me how that process happens. How do you collect those videos?
You go to the camera and on the computer and then just download it onto a flash drive and then submit it into evidence.
All right. And have you had occasion to look at the videos of this particular search on September 14th before today?
I have seen it before, yes.
So you're aware that during these videos, the video freezes a number of times for lengthy periods?
Yes, it could. It's motion activated, so if it doesn't detect motion, it would probably shut off.
Okay. Now that's you standing outside of Ms. Richin's cell up on the far right of our screen, correct?
Yes.
With your back to the camera.
Yes, ma'am.
I would hate to have
And
to
what is going on in the cell at this time?
search somebody's cell.
Sergeant Barrett is in the process of searching some documents at the foot of the cell of the bunk.
And those documents were located in an envelope, correct?
I have no idea. I wasn't paying attention. He would have been blocking my view of what he was actually searching.
All right.
So I'm looking at his back.
So at this time, you're not clear what he's going through, just that he's going through documents?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know if they ever said what kind of medical issue Kouri
Now,
had.
okay, oh, it looks like it's moving again. All right, have you up to this point been in her cell at all?
No.
All right. Okay, so let me ask you, if this is unusual based on your experience, this is playing, but it appears that it's either frozen or you're standing very, very still.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
move on,
couldn't
Wendy.
tell you.
So my question is, though, have you seen videos typically where there is movement, but it's freezing like this?
No, it's not typical.
This is unusual. All right, I think let's watch until this unfreezes. So that's the first time you go into the cell.
Correct.
And are you now looking at what you're looking at, what Sergeant Barrett is looking at this point? Well, you can see what he's looking at. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. I could see. I'm not paying attention to what he's doing.
All right, but you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Were you finished?
Yeah.
You have an envelope in your hand right there, correct?
I have no idea. I can't tell what it is.
Right. Do you recall, well, let's take another look. You still aren't sure what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do you recall seeing the envelope in the cell that said the name of Ms. Richin's former attorney on the front of it?
No.
So you don't know what that is that you're looking at right there? It looks like an envelope, right?
I can't tell what it is. It looks like there's papers, yes, but
Okay.
I don't know if it's an envelope or not. I don't remember touching an envelope in the cell at all.
All right. So tell me what you did after this point, if you recall.
So my recollection was there on the top bunk, there was papers and books on the top. So I figured I would start searching in that area because we were looking for the document. I remember flipping through some pages on the top, and then there were some paperback books on the top bunk and the LSAT book on the top bunk. And
Stop you for 1 minute, let me just, a couple of clarifications. So on the top bunk, there were, you said pages.
Yeah, it was nothing of significance. It was like, I couldn't even tell you what they were. They were just letters, or like, it was nothing that stood out to me, so.
All right. Were there a lot of pages, though, on the top bunk?
There was a few. I couldn't tell you how many, but yeah, it was scattered paper on the bunk right there.
So, on the bunk or the book? I'm sorry, what did you say?
On the metal part of the bunk. And then there were some books off to the side, and then there was the LSAT book on the top of the bunk right there also.
So the book was on top of the bunk?
Yeah.
And then, is it frozen or is it
Yeah.
stopped? All right, so we can't see what is, oh, there we go, it's moving. So at this point, you are looking at some papers, correct?
Correct.
Sorry, could you answer out loud?
Correct.
Sergeant Barrett just had an envelope. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
It's a manila envelope. Hey, Louise. Somebody go get Mark out of timeout. I forgot about him.
So again, even though there's movement, the camera or the video is frozen at this point, correct?
Appears to be.
We don't see you looking at any books, correct?
Not at this moment on the.
I think this unfreezes again. Oh, that was the end of it?
It's been the end of it for a minute.
All right, let's go on then to the next one.
That's why I was frozen.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of where it starts and stops.
I'm just kidding.
So really
Laura.
what I'd like you to look at here, Sergeant Thomas, and when this unfreezes or freezes, if you can point out at any time you are looking through books up there on the top bunk. Or I think it's moving now, if you could.
Yes, we see.
All right, now you have something in your hand. Can you zoom in on that,
I would
Alex?
say right there is where I'm in a book right there where I'm pulling.
Well,
I would think. It's hard to
it
tell.
actually, yeah, it is.
Okay, can I just make a point here that kind of just stands out to me? If the other prison guard is holding the envelope, how on earth could this prison guard possibly have known about the envelope? You know what I mean? Like, how could he's not reading the papers out of the envelope? He doesn't know that's where they came from because this other guy's been in there tossing stuff around already.
It actually looks like you're going through some papers, doesn't it?
That's what he said.
I don't know. I was only in the cell for a couple minutes before I found the letter, so I would say it would be within the first couple minutes of being in there.
So your testimony is you found it where?
On the top bunk, right where I'm standing. That's the only place in the cell I searched.
So you only searched on the bunk, all right. And where was it on the bunk?
In the book, right where I'm standing.
But all of that is, none of that can be seen on the video. That's all frozen when that may have happened.
Sure, it looks like I have the letter right now, as far as I can tell.
So you have papers in your hand right now. We don't see the book, correct?
Correct.
And those papers are the pages that everyone now calls the walk the dog document.
Correct.
Those pages, when you found them, they were glued together or stuck together as if pulled out of a notebook, like when you tear a chunk out of a notebook and papers are still together on the side or on the top. Is that correct?
I don't recall. I mean, I remember flipping through them, so, but I don't remember them being secured to each other in any way.
How many pages were there when you found it?
I believe there was like eight
There were eight.
or nine total pages.
8 or 9 pages.
May have been 6. There was a letter, and then it was like like a check mark or like a checklist after, so I couldn't tell you exactly how many pages there were.
All right. How many pages were turned over as and are part of now what are the walk the dog pages?
All of them.
Well,
Very good
now
point, Nate.
actually,
Very good point. If he
and this
used like
is, I'm not
if he used as she says he used, talking about Eric, then his business would have definitely suffered and it was doing really well.
entering this now, but this is the letter. It's already on the docket, but just so he can refresh.
Sure.
So if you could tell me how many pages.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.
6. But there were 7 or 8 pages. Well, there were 8 pages, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, which I think there were 9 pages. Did you take all 9 of the pages at that time?
I did.
So when you saw these pages that were in a handwriting, you read all of them, right?
I read most of the document on my way out of, because once I verified that there was something in there of concern, then I was taking them out of this section to take to my supervisor.
So the very beginning of that, in front of you, the first couple of lines, and you can just read it to yourself right now,
Okay.
is about a conversation between Ms. Richins and her attorney, correct?
No. It's saying she's referred to this guy as the third person.
Right, she's talking about something that her attorney told her, correct?
Correct.
All right, so as you started to read this, you immediately saw that she was talking about something between her and her attorney, correct?
Correct.
But you continued to go on and read it?
Correct. So I scanned the document, and then fairly quick, she talks about basically what she's telling her brother to say.
Well, I understand that's what your interpretation of the document is, but let me back up a little bit. So when you come across documents that are privileged, do you typically go on and continue to read them?
They weren't marked as privileged.
When you come across documents about an individual's case that they've written,
We scan those documents just to look for safety security threats.
you scan them or you read them?
Scan them. Or you read them until you determine that it's a legal document when it's a handwritten letter that's not in a legal folder or anything like that.
Now, you refer to that as a letter, but is that a letter addressed to anybody? Does it say "Dear somebody" at the top?
No, not at the top. At the back of it, it clearly is addressed to her mom.
Well, wait a minute. Let's clarify here. Addressing a letter would, there's no,
Hold on.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Bloodworth.
Like all the other documents in this case, it says what it says. We don't need a quiz on what it says.
Are there questions about why Sergeant Thomas did or didn't do whatever he didn't do next that you need to ask?
There is, and it's laying foundation for argument that will be made in the briefs.
If you need to ask questions about what he did or didn't do, that's fine.
Well, I think it's important to clarify, for purposes of argument and privilege, whether or not this document was obviously a letter.
Well, but you can, candidly, I don't care whether he thinks it was obviously a letter. I can address that, and I have to, under the law, make an objective determination of that. If you want to ask him why he did whatever he did or didn't do next, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, can I get an answer to the first question? Is there a salutation on the letter to somebody?
No.
All right. But you continued to read it
Correct.
anyway.
That's his job.
And it's not signed on the bottom by Ms. Richins. It's not "Love Kouri" on the bottom, correct?
I would have to.
I'll go ahead and take a
Ms.
quick
Lewis,
look.
if you just ask the next question, I'm going to move along just a little bit here.
Thank God.
Was there an envelope with that to mail it?
No.
Were there any letters in her cell that were ready to be mailed out that you found that day?
I don't recall any. This is the only letter I remember. This was the only letter of significance that I felt was a violation of rules and a safety security threat.
All right, and it was attached to 3 other pages that were just notes, correct?
Yeah, it was just like a checklist it appeared to be a checklist. I couldn't really tell you everything that was on it, on the last 3 pages.
Okay, but it wasn't you didn't think it was part of the first 6 pages?
Yeah, I thought it was part of the actual document, yes.
All right, are you aware that the next page, page 7, was found to be privileged by the taint attorney in this case?
No,
You're not aware of that?
no.
Okay, Your Honor, I just want to Exhibit 158 for the record.
I believe it's been established that it wasn't a legal document. I think that when there's any kind of question in the way this was in question, the way it was, unless they can full out prove that where this manila envelope was, I mean, so I get why the judge is like, let's move this along. But literally, she keeps up with this and keeps going on and on and on. And yeah, Laura says, by legal, not inmate. Yeah, good point. Why are we going over this and over this and over this? It's like she's trying to prove a jury, and there's not a jury there yet. We're just going with the judge. The judge has got everything in all the evidence. He's got it. He's seen it. All right.
This is not a document that this witness would be familiar with, but I don't think I have any objection from.
Object.
What is it?
This is a letter from the taint stating that 7th page of this document.
Okay.
Your Honor, the other way, of course, to read that letter is that the first 6 on.
Why? Either way, I don't have the 7th page in front of me, do I?
No, you don't. I
That's
can give it
Eric's
to you
sister.
and we can submit it, but
My brother-in-law.
it was determined to be privileged, so the government doesn't have that either.
I've not seen it.
Okay.
The only one that,
Not sure I'm ever going to rely on this, but we'll mark it and you can
well,
make
yeah, I
whatever
just
argument.
wanted for the record that
Okay.
the documents this was found with were
It's been offered.
privileged.
Okay. 158 is offered.
Okay. Now, you said you don't recall if they were glued together
I do
at that
not
time.
remember them being glued together, no.
All right, then if I could just also offer, I guess this would be Exhibit 159. Sorry, Your Honor, after discussing this with Mr. Bloodworth, I'm going to move ahead. All right, so the only thing that was taken from the cell was this 8-page, 9-page document, correct?
Correct.
And what did you do with the document after you took it from the cell?
I took it into the jail commander and explained the contents of the letter to him, which then I was referred to take it to the county attorney's office to verify if it was a legal document.
I'm sorry, can you leave more? I didn't hear that last part.
I took the letter out to the jail commander and discussed the contents with him, and then was referred to the county attorney to determine whether it was a legal document or not.
All right, and it was determined this is not the document that was held up to the video camera when Ms. Richins was visiting her mother that you were originally looking for, correct?
Correct.
So this is a different document that you took out of the cell.
Correct.
All right, and then the rest of her belongings were put, or I don't know if the rest of them, a number of her belongings were put in a bin, correct?
I wasn't there when that happened.
I think you were, actually. Why don't we put on video Exhibit 78 again?
Are we doing this to refresh his recollection?
Yes, but it's in evidence, I mean.
It-
We got that, Alex. All right, so you are in the cell when Sergeant Barrett takes the bin down, correct?
Correct.
And Alex, if you can back up more from where he comes from. Now, he comes from behind the door, correct?
Correct.
And those belongings are things that were behind the door, it appears, correct?
Correct.
But isn't that where the LSAT book is in that bin at this point?
I wouldn't know. I was
Well-
looking at the document the whole time, so I don't even recall him taking that bin out.
Do you recall coming back about an hour later to take pictures of the LSAT book?
I do.
And where was the LSAT book when you took the pictures of it?
I believe it was down in that property down there.
It was in the bin, correct?
Correct.
And did you take that book out of the cell and put it in the bin?
No, I don't know if Barrett must have grabbed it, or if he grabbed it later and put it in there, or if he grabbed it like while I was reading the letter.
Well, shouldn't that be on the video? If he put more things in the bin?
Yeah, I'd imagine.
All right. Your Honor, you'll have the videos. So he doesn't recall. I don't want to just sit here and show every video. But
Well, to be clear, I don't know how many of these there are, but I'm not going to watch all of them unless you have determined that one of them is relevant.
all right.
You can just proffer which one you want me to watch, but
I'd like to proffer a negative. There is not a video of anything else being put in the bin after we see the bin coming
Okay.
down the stairs.
fair enough.
So, and there's only a few videos after this.
All right. I think this is a good place to stop because Wendy is getting on my nerves. Hello, God. For those of you who are just chiming in or just coming in, we've decided that the judge has the voice that God would have in a movie. If we could hear God speak out loud, that's what he would sound like. So we're not trying to be, I don't know what's the word, anti-religious, but yeah, she beats a ton of dead horses. She got a whole stable full of them, JPC. They see her coming, they're like, oh, get the horses out. Oh yeah, Louise, you'll have to go back and catch up. It's not that much, but we have like probably another hour and a half left to go. And if you guys would not mind, I would like to continue this tomorrow, if that's okay with y'all. What do you guys think? Yeah, Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman always plays God. All right. Well, your dragon. Yeah, it's getting later in the evening. Yeah, this is getting. She's wearing us down. Ooh. Ooh. All right. Well, I'll get a thing scheduled up for tomorrow. We'll watch it again tomorrow. Laura, you don't plan on doing a live or anything tomorrow, did you? I know we had talked about you trying to get something out, but you were talking about like next week, right? I think so. Laura's going to be putting another thing out on Gacy, so y'all make sure y'all go over and see that. Lori, put your channel link up, please, if you would, so that everybody can get to it. No, not tomorrow. Okay, so we'll do this tomorrow then. And then I've got some other things I'm working on for Courtney Clenny and another case that I'm looking into. I'm just going to start putting all kinds of crazy stuff out. Sometimes I'm going to do some videos. It won't be premieres. Y'all won't be able to chat with it all. And then sometimes we'll get together with premieres and stuff. But I'm trying to get as much out as I can right now. I got to get it out there to you guys. I feel like I'm so behind on everything. And what about time, please? Louise, time is just a thing. Time is just a thing. I knew you were going to say that. I knew y'all were going to ask me, what time, Kerry? It's Sunday. So, how about this? By noon tomorrow, I'll have it up on my channel as to what time we're going to go live. Can we do that? Because it's Sunday. It's hard for me to tell sometimes. All right. You guys, please don't forget to give some love to our wonderful mods, Interesting Captures, Laura and Miss Mel. And pray for Miss Bama. She's around here somewhere. She'll be back. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Y'all be good. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe on your way out. And feel free to leave a comment. Have a blessed day.